My name is Merrick, and I am 53 years old. I always thought that my marriage to Anna was something others could only dream of. We had been together for over 20 years, and I truly believed that we had gone through everything together, both the good and the bad. But that sense of security turned out to be just an illusion. In recent years, Anna seemed to distance herself from me. She often stayed late at work, lost interest in our shared activities, and refused to go on trips she used to love. I tried not to pressure her, thinking that maybe it was just a result of stress or age-related changes. But one day, my world turned upside down. It all started with a chance find, a small note in her purse. The note was written on pink paper: "I love you, can't wait for our next meeting. J." At first, I thought it was just a joke, maybe a note from an old friend or even a harmless prank. But when I asked Anna about it, she blushed and replied nervously that it was just a trivial thing. At that moment, I realized something was wrong. That evening, for the first time in our entire marriage, I decided to check on her. I decided to watch. I wouldn't hire detectives or set up interrogations, that wasn't my style. Instead, I began to pay attention to her small actions: when she left the house, who she texted, how she responded to my questions. It was hard for me to believe that my wife, whom I had known for so many years, could be leading a double life. But one of her messages changed everything. I accidentally saw her typing something on her phone and then quickly deleting it. It was a text to someone named Jacek. "I'll see you tomorrow at our place at 4 p.m. Don't be late." And at that moment, I felt my blood freeze. She didn't even try to hide it. It was an open challenge. I had to find out what was going on. I decided to go to that place. It was a small restaurant on the outskirts of the city, where we had never been together. I arrived there early, sat in the corner, and waited. And then she appeared, my wife, wearing the same dress I had given her for our anniversary. She sat at a table and began to wait. A few minutes later, he showed up, a tall, elegant man in a suit. They hugged, and I felt my heart stop. My wife was not here for a business meeting. This was something much more intimate. I decided not to interfere. It was incredibly difficult, but I knew that any rash actions could ruin everything. So I decided to just watch them without revealing that I knew. They had dinner, drank wine, laughed, everything seemed so effortless. Anna looked happy. I couldn't remember the last time I had seen her like that. Maybe she had lost interest in our life a long time ago? Maybe I had become just a habit for her? Then they left the restaurant together and got into the same car. I decided to follow them. The car stopped at a small apartment in the city center that I had never noticed before. They went inside, and I was left with many questions. What is this apartment? Had she been here before? I decided to investigate. The next day, when Anna was at work, I drove to that apartment and knocked on the door. A middle-aged woman, apparently the landlord, opened the door and smiled. "Are you here to see the apartment?" she asked. I hesitated for a moment. "Yes," I replied. "Tell me, who lives here?" She replied that the apartment was rented short-term, usually for a few hours or for 1 or 2 days. At that moment, I felt a chill in my entire body. I realized, this was a place for secret meetings. But if Anna really used it to meet Jacek, this was more than just a simple affair. They had planned everything so I would never find out. I left without finding anything concrete. But what I did learn made me act more cautiously. I decided to hire a technician to install hidden cameras in that apartment. I made an arrangement with the landlord that I would rent the place for a day under the guise of a business meeting. Everything was ready in just a few hours, cameras were set up in the rooms, and I sat at home waiting for the next move. It hurt and shamed me to resort to such methods. But I needed to know the truth. The next evening, as usual, Anna arrived at the apartment with Jacek. I turned on the screen and saw them sitting together, hugging, talking. But the conversation was not what I expected. They were not discussing their feelings or romantic plans, but me. I heard Jacek quietly say, "Are you sure he doesn't suspect anything?" Anna smiled. He thinks I'm just tired. But if we do everything right, he won't even notice how he loses everything. I couldn't believe my ears. It turned out that my wife and this Jacek were interested in more than just each other. They had developed an entire scheme to take all our shared money that I had been saving for years. Anna knew all our financial passwords, had access to the accounts, and even had duplicate keys to the safes. They planned to steal the money while I thought she was simply falling in love with someone else. I was devastated, but I decided not to act impulsively. Instead, I changed all the passwords, cut off her access to the accounts, and transferred the money to other accounts, in a way that she wouldn't suspect anything. I changed the keys to our safe, and hid all my valuable documents in a place she didn't know about. She couldn't do anything without raising suspicion. Now I was playing my own game. I saw how she tried to check the balance, how she called Jacek, trying to figure out what was going on. They thought it was just a misunderstanding. But after a few days, she couldn't stand it anymore and asked me directly, "Pyotr, did you change the passwords?" I calmly smiled. "Why would I do that? You always take care of our finances, darling." Her face turned pale. Then I began to ask her questions. Where is our money going? Why do some transactions seem suspicious? Why are you spending so much time at the new office? She didn't know what to say. And when I showed her the video from the apartment, where she was sitting with Jacek, her eyes filled with tears. "This is not what you think, Pyotr," she cried. But her tears didn't matter to me anymore. I had uncovered her game, but I wouldn't let her win. Her tears no longer evoked any sympathy in me. She nervously began to explain that Jacek was just a colleague, that she wanted to help me with business because she was worried about our finances, and that it was all just a misunderstanding. But I knew, she was lying. I was no longer the naive man I used to be. I just nodded and pretended to believe her. I even said that I still wanted to save our marriage. That confused her. I saw her blink in bewilderment, not understanding what was happening. But I let her think she still had hope. The next few weeks, I did everything I could to make her believe that everything was going according to her plan. I was gentle, attentive, bought her gifts, did everything to restore the atmosphere of trust that had once existed between us. And it seemed to please her. She started smiling again, even spending more time at home. Meanwhile, I continued gathering evidence. I talked to Jacek, pretending I wanted to improve our business and help Anna advance her career. Jacek, confident of his victory, also began to open up. He boasted about how he had successfully outsmarted his competitors thanks to the information that Agnieszka, Anna's other name, gave him after each of our family meetings. It turned out that even when we discussed private financial matters at home, she recorded everything on her phone and passed it on to him so that he knew about our next steps. She appeared to be a caring wife who was concerned about the future, but in reality, every word she said was part of a plan. Together, they built a web of deceit that was meant to destroy me when I least expected it. I even forced myself to go to a dinner with her and Jacek. He acted as if the three of us were great friends, telling jokes, pouring wine. I saw how Agnieszka was nervous but pretended that everything was fine. They didn't realize that every word was being recorded. I had a hidden camera in my pocket the entire time and recorded all their conversations. I made them believe that they were still in control, even though every step they took played into my hands. And then came the day when I made my move. It was our next family dinner, which I organized at home. I told Agnieszka that I wanted to discuss an important financial deal and invited Jacek to give his advice. She agreed, thinking it was her perfect opportunity to push me to sign the final documents, after which I would lose everything. Jacek came, smiling as if we were old friends. He prepared the papers, something related to asset exchange and reinvestment. I pretended to read them carefully, then quietly said, "Before we sign this, let's watch something interesting." I turned on the laptop, connecting it to the television. The video from our last meeting, where Jacek was discussing how he planned to use my own wife to set me up, appeared on the big screen. Agnieszka turned pale as a ghost, and Jacek froze with a wine glass in his hand. Is this a joke? He muttered. I just smiled. No, this is our reality. And you know what? The police are watching this too. While Jacek tried to justify himself, I continued showing the video. Their shared plans, conversations about how they were deceiving me, evidence of money transfers to accounts I didn't know about. Everything was on the screen. They were both trapped. I pressed a button, and the police officers, who were already waiting in the next room, came in. Jacek tried to run, but it was too late. They detained both of them. Agnieszka looked at me with a gaze I will never forget. It was a mix of fear, hatred, and betrayal. She knew she had lost everything. She was prosecuted for financial fraud, conspiracy, and deception. She lost everything: her reputation, her job, her friends. And Jacek, the one I thought was her only ally, turned on her, claiming that she had forced him into it. He didn't even try to defend her. She was left completely alone. And do you know what I felt when she begged me to withdraw my statement, saying that it was all a misunderstanding? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I just told her, you chose this path yourself. After the trial, I filed for divorce and gained full control over our assets. She tried to appeal the decision, but the judge ruled in my favor. I lost faith in love, in honesty, and even in the very idea of marriage. I had built a life with a person who had led a double life for many years. And now I am alone. Sometimes I wonder, did she ever truly love me? Or maybe it was all a game from the very beginning? But now it no longer matters. I no longer want to know the truth. The only thing I understood is that you should never fully trust anyone, even those you love. Because they can turn against you at any moment. And no one can hurt you more than the one you considered your closest friend and ally. If you liked this story, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell icon so you won't miss new, captivating stories about life, mistakes, and attempts to make things right. See you in the next video. Friends, thank you for watching our videos. We strive to create interesting and quality content, but if there are any mistakes, we ask for your understanding. We are not native speakers, but we always try our best for you, so that each story conveys the emotions you feel. Your comments and support motivate us to work even harder. Thank you for being with us.